Archimandrite Nikolay was born on the 11th of November 1904 in the county town of Ruza of Moscow province to the family of a civil servant, the doctor of Ruza hospital Nikolay Shatalov and his wife Elizabeth Stepanovna. It is known that in the family there also was a daughter, Nina. In Ruza, the Shatalovs lived in house 6 on Prerevskaya Street. The information about the youth of Archimandrite Nikolay is known from the Museum of Ruza. In 1919, at the senior school of the town of Ruza, the first Komsomol organization was created. In autumn, Nikolay Shatalov joined it, but a month later a youngster left it, returning his Komsomol card. Tall, skinny and clumsy, he brought small volumes of Pushkin, Gogol and Turgenev to school that was situated at that time in a white two-store building of former poor house, and in the post-revolutionary period of famine exchanged them for bread. Nikolay Andreevich followed his father's footsteps, and after finishing both working faculty and medical courses of Karl Marx School and working in factory postovщик, he entered the first Moscow State University, where he studied in medicine department, working at a medical unit since 1923. According to the questionnaire of the arrested after graduating from the university in 1924, Nikolay Shatalov was sentenced to 3 years of concentration camps by the OGPU for false evidence. According to his own words, since 1926, Nikolay Andreevich practiced healing. In 1928, by Bishop Innocent Pustinsky, Nikolay Shatalov was ordained a deacon to the Church of Life-Giving Trinity in the village of Goretovo of Moraisk district of Moscow province, where the prior was future Holy Martyr Mikhail Markov. In the reference given by the parish council of the Trinity Church, it was pointed out that Deacon Nikolay is of sober way of life, and since the first days of becoming a deacon at his church, with his religious beliefs and behavior, began to attract more people to the Church of God, also organizing missionary group work with dissidents and godless people. That is the thing our church is proud of. Since August or September 1929, Deacon Nikolay began to serve at the Church of St. Nicholas the Miracle Maker in the village of Lushki of Ruza district of Moscow region, where the prior was priest Ivan Troitsky. Deacon Nikolay Shatalov began his confessional cross-bearing during widespread persecutions of the Orthodox Church and faith, the decay of religious traditions as well as the church stratification. At St. Nicholas Church, Deacon Nikolay did not serve for long, and already on the 30th of December 1929, a commissioner of the Secret Department of Moscow Regional OGPU ordered to arrest a deacon who systematically preached in anti-Soviet way. Taking into consideration that future staying in liberty of Shatalov Nikolay Andreevich would have a negative effect on the attitude of the population towards the Soviet authorities and would disrupt the work of local organizations, on the 5th of January 1930 he was arrested and firstly imprisoned in Ruza, then in Taganka in Moscow. Being interrogated, Deacon Nikolay Shatalov declared, "I have agitated neither in preachers nor in private talks. I think that according to the law of Christian faith, it is a big sin to agitate against any authorities. As I see, my speeches are misrepresented and now are in another form. I think that I was slandered by the clergy that are hostile towards me. The reason of their hostility is that I always unmask their bad attitude towards the duties that they were charged with after their ordination. I avoid any talks on political issues, and my attitude towards politics is indifferent." There was a deal of truth in the words of Father Nikolay, as one of the witnesses was former priest Ivan Toropov, who testified that Deacon Nikolay, on the holiday of Saints Zosima and Savati, preached, pointing out that Saints Zosima and Savati died for Christian faith. So are the best people now executed by Bolsheviks, being exiled to Solovki and Siberia. Bolsheviks are interfering in the church affairs, closing the churches that are not needed to them. The deacon was also incriminated the fact that he was healing from diseases, systematically preached in anti-Soviet way, speaking that the modern teaching of the Soviet authorities does not have any basement, that Soviet authorities with the help of their teachers teach children and youngsters to lie and be godless, that godless communists are the people of the evil, so we need to fight with it. Do not listen to Bolsheviks, as they will give you nothing. Only the church can give a good life to peasants. People live in bad conditions because of Soviet authorities. Soviet authorities and Bolsheviks are persecuting the best people, exiling and imprisoning them. Like earlier, foes of the faith excruciated saints. Also, according to the testimony of witnesses, many people began to go to Father Nikolay's sermons, especially in recent times. There were talks that he was a powerful speaker and means people good. On the 31st of January 1930, the case was sent to the special meeting of the OGPU tribunal to be conducted without legal proceedings. According to the materials of the indictment, Deacon Nikolay, using religious superstitions of the faithful, systematically agitated them in anti-Soviet way, agitating both in his sermons and private talks in a vicious anti-Soviet way, spreading anti-Soviet gossips and provoking the faithful to mass meetings. That is enacted by the 58th article, paragraph 10, part 2 of the Criminal Code. On the 23rd of February the same year, according to the 58th article, paragraph 10 of the Criminal Code of Russia, by the special meeting of the OGPU, Father Nikolay was sentenced to 3 years of concentration camps. Deacon Nikolay was sent to Ukht-Pechlag. Nearly 1936, the Church of St. Nicholas the Miracle Maker in the village of Lushki was closed, while the church building being adapted as a school was partly made out, and the upper tiers of the church bell tower were destroyed. In 1965, the church that was used as a school occurred to be on the territory of Ruza water storage that was being created at that time. The part of the church had been protruding out of water until early 1970s, unless it was blown up. Ironically, the description of the Church of St. Nicholas the Miracle Maker and its history in the Soviet period was preserved for the descendants by Tatiana Yermilovna Lavrikhina, the daughter of peasant Yermil Georgievich Chugunov, who slandered Deacon Nikolay Shatalov, who had been serving there. Upon his release on the 11th of January 1933, Father Nikolay moved to the city of Kiev, where he began to serve as a deacon. The same year, by Archbishop Sergius Grishin, he was ordained a priest, while a year later a hieromonk. There is very little information about his further life. In the criminal case of the NKVD, it is mentioned that Father Nikolay illegally lived in Moscow and met clergymen at the church of the icon of Our Lady of Unexpected Joy in Marina Rosh. In the protocols of the interrogation of witnesses, it was pointed out that hieromonk Nikolay Shatalov served as a priest in the village of Dolgolyadze of Volokholamsk district of Moscow region. Due to the fact that both the villages of Ostashova and Brazhnikovo were called Dolgolyadze, Father Nikolay must have served either at the Church of Christ the Savior in the village of Ostashova or at the Church of the Annunciation of Our Lady in the village of Brazhnikovo. In February 1937, the hieromonk was judged for stealing, but was justified by the regional court and released. The same year, hieromonk Nikolay was ordained an archimandrite. It is known that before the arrest he lived in the tiny village of Nizhitino of Tokarevo village council of Volokholamsk district of Moscow region, and possibly could have served at nearby church of the Life-Giving Trinity in the Georgievsky churchyard, taking into consideration the fact that the churches in the villages of Ostashova and Brazhnikovo were quite far away. The details of the spiritual life of Archimandrite Nikolay are still unknown. In such cases, the statements of the prosecutors and slanders are analyzed, sorting out the weeds from the tares, trying to restore the spiritual image of the confessor step by step, using the materials of criminal cases. According to the protocols of the interrogation records of witnesses, Archimandrite Nikolay was venerated by the faithful as a penetrating and dignified shepherd, who was healing people. That was the reason he was highly respected by the clergy as a very dignified shepherd. Some women considered him as a saint and were telling about his godly life. Taking into consideration the medical education of Father Nikolay and his healing of the needy, especially in the conditions of low level of medicine during that time, there was nothing surprising. On the 1st of December 1937, Archimandrite Nikolay was arrested for counter-revolutionary agitation of terroristic character. Also, Father Nikolay was accused in living in Moscow without registration and illegal healing. According to the words of former priest Arkady Yankovsky, who slandered him, archimandrite Nikolay said that in villages many clergymen and faithful were being arrested. That is why he had to hide himself in Moscow. According to the testimony of witnesses, archimandrite Nikolay said the following: "Saving the Orthodox Church in the USSR is a must for every dignified shepherd. I personally managed to open the church in Volokholamsk district that had been already closed, and uniting many people around, I managed to complete basic repairs and pay taxes. As the head of the church, we need a dignified metropolitan who would unite us, the clergy and the faithful, to defend the rights of the church, to prevent closure of churches, arrests of clergy and faithful. Soviet authorities always arrest a large number of clergy and faithful before the upcoming elections to the Supreme Soviet. They do it because they are afraid of people of our kind." From the protocols of interrogation of witnesses, it is also clearly seen that the selfless service of Father Nikolay attracted many people to church, and godless authorities could not stand this. The investigation was rather short. Already on the 17th of November the same year, according to the 58th article, paragraph 10 of the Criminal Code of Russia, the NKVD Troika sentenced archimandrite Nikolay Shatalov to capital punishment. He took his martyrdom on Budva firing range ground near Moscow on the 19th of December 1937, on the Remembrance Day of his patron saint, Saint Nicholas the Miracle Maker. On the 19th of December 2020, after the feast liturgy at the Trinity Church of the village of Goreto of Mozhaisk district of Moscow region, the consecration of the memorial plate dedicated to archimandrite Nikolay Shatalov took place.